and thank you for joining me for the Vampire Talk Show. I'm your host, Valaine. Val to my friends. My roommate discovered my coffin under the concrete floor of the basement in her new house and woke me up from a 100-year nap. Now, I'm reconnecting with old friends, making new ones, and of course, making a podcast. Tonight, we have a very ooky, spooky show, but first, I want to talk about summertime. Mostly sunscreen. Yes, I know it's a bit weird for a vampire to talk about sunscreen because I can't actually go out into the sun unless it's the underwater sun at Atlantis. However, I will say I still have to wear sunscreen under the moonlight because moonlight is technically sunlight. It just doesn't hurt me as much because it's all diffused and silvery and goes through the moon filter, basically. But I still have to wear sunscreen, and sunscreen is quite important. Not just because of, radiation and UV rays being, not so great health-wise, but also if you want to look young and beautiful for a very long time, but not as long as me, obviously, because you're not a vampire, then you should wear sunscreen. I have seen people at the beach, and I'm not going to yuck anybody's yum. I know that there are sun goddesses out there that are all about that tan. However, I cannot stress enough that having so much sun is so bad for you. You're literally radiating your skin. The sun's rays are radiation. And would you walk into a nuclear facility and start playing with rods and whatnot? Probably not, because your skin would slough off. I think that everyone should wear sunscreen every day, not just in the summertime, but I feel like summertime is the time for sunscreen PSAs and whatnot. So I have seen what I call a leather witch at the beach. I have not seen them in their full splendor in the sunlight, obviously, because I can't go out in the sun, but I've seen them on the boardwalks. Their skin just looks like a leather handbag, and that's because of all the sun. I mean, if you want to look like that, that's fine, but my goodness, just take care of yourself. It's important to wear sunscreen. Yes, so this is your yearly summertime PSA. Wear sunscreen, don't get skin cancer, and look young and beautiful for much longer. Anyway, I digress. So, tonight, on our show, we have a Hat Man. What is a Hat Man? Well, we're going to find out. Please welcome to the show, number 77. Number 77, thank you so much for being on the show, darling.
Thank you so much, Valaine, for bridging this electronic communication.
My pleasure. I know it's easier for you to talk between radio stations, essentially. So, much like our Men in Black, are you related to the Men in Black whatsoever, or are you your own thing?
We are tangentially related to the Men in Black. However, we are closer related to the Shadow People.
Oh, yes, the Shadow People. Well, let me ask you this, number 77. Have you, do you require sunscreen when you go out do you go out in the daylight?
On our side of the dimensional divides, we do. However, on your plane, we simply disappear if we light the sun.
Oh, how convenient. I think that's wonderful. I would love to be able to walk around in the sun and be invisible. I think that would bode well. So you said that you're more closely related to shadow people. Um, so is this part of your like profession being a hat man? What exactly is a hat man for our listeners who may not know?
Hat Man is something that people usually see when they're asleep or very close to it.
Mm, I see.
Usually we watching, and that is what people notice of us. But what we are really there for is to siphon off the excess energy that these humans put out without realizing it.
Mm. Oh, so you're feeding off of human energy then while they're sleeping is what you're saying, correct?
Yes, that is correct, Malay.
Interesting, interesting. So why do the humans need to be asleep? Do they have to be asleep, or can you siphon off energy while they're awake?
It is usually easier if they are close to the time of rest. Otherwise, they are guarding their energy, aren't they?
Mm, interesting. Um, well, so is this so this is a survival sort of scenario then. It's not like a job or anything, correct?
It is partially a job and partially survival. And
Um,
if we do not do this, then thought forms will be running rampant in your world.
ooh. Okay. So you are preventing random and wild thought forms from forming from human brains because human brains, for some reason, are very gifted in creating these thought forms. So you're kind of almost like population control for egregores. Is that what I understand?
That would be a very astute observation.
Interesting. I bet egregores aren't too fond then of this whole thing. I had no idea that there was a predatory scale in this kind of um, uh, incorporeal community of shadow people, hat men, and humans and egregores. It's very interesting. I really yes. Is there a particular kind of thought or like human energy that is like tastier than others? Like for me, I like to have O negative just for survival. But if I have some A positive, ooh, man, that is good stuff, and it's like champagne essentially. So is there something similar in your world?
There is. Usually, what we are drawn the most to is the more negative. If people are stressed out too much, or going through an awful time, or possibly being repressed in some way, we will come and siphon that off of them. And once they get through that feeling of that situation, then we will not be showing up anymore.
Hmm. So, oh, that's interesting. So, are you causing the stress to go away, or is it simply that's just the tasty bits, and then as soon as that dries up, you're gone? I'm trying to see if this is like a symbiotic, parasitic relationship with humans.
When we draw the energy from them, it does not make the feelings go away, but it allows them to change easier than if we had not.
So you're lightening the load. Oh, that's nice. That is absolutely wonderful. So for me, so it's interesting. So we both get our sustenance from humans. For me, I tend to like a bit of variety, and I will go out and I'll hunt and find random people. Sometimes I'll go back to a person or whatever if they were particularly awesome, but for the most part, I go out and I have 6 to 10, feedings in a night. Do you have like a stable of humans that you usually go to, or are they randomly chosen, or are you assigned to them, or what have you?
What usually happens is that shadow people are truly everywhere. They act as scouts for the Hat Man. And when they discover someone that a lot of energy is coming off of, then they call us in.
That sounds wonderful. It's like the shadow people are sommeliers for human energy. It sounds like.
A lot of the time, we are perceived in bedrooms and such. We're not actually in your dimension. We're just outside of it, which is why we are communicating like this tonight.
Right.
But we can influence your world a little bit at a time.
Interesting.
Opening doors, possibly moving small items out of the way.
Oh, the lights just flickered in the studio. Was that you?
That may perhaps have been. Yes. Sometimes we need to take energy from non-living sources.
Ah, I see. That's interesting. So there's like some sort of electrical element to this as well, then, you might say.
One might say yes.
Interesting. So, are you like a shark where you're just moving around all the time looking for your next meal? Or do you have downtime? Do you have hobbies? Do you have any sort of, self-care that you do for yourself after a particularly rough day?
We do have some downtime. Quite often we like to hang around abandoned locations without that many people. While we require them for sustenance, sometimes they can be a lot.
You're telling me I have to live with a couple of them. No offense, Allie. Don't get mad. Yes, humans can be quite a lot, especially when they're awake. So I can now understand why you mostly are feeding off of their energy and their thought forms and whatever while they're sleeping.
And do you know they have started to encroach on these abandoned places, going around with gizmos and tarot cards and all manner of things.
Yes, they call themselves paranormal investigators. And yes, I'm well versed with these folks. I actually run in their circles quite a bit because Ali, the producer, is also an amateur paranormal investigator. And yes, I think humans are so just preoccupied with the other side and with the entities and cryptids and everything just in the past decade. It's really blown up. And I feel like, it's such a human thing for them to try and grab something and claim something as theirs when it was never theirs to begin with. But yes, have you ever messed around with paranormal investigators? It's really fun.
We do occasionally wind up being seen in their video and photographic evidence when they review it. But we are simply there to try to take away stray thought forms, especially from these places that have tours, telling stories that are often incorrect. But it makes whatever they're talking about anyway.
Yes. That's actually quite brilliant. Because I feel like a lot of haunted places are haunted by humans themselves, and so going to a haunted location, a very popular one, let's say Waverly Sanatorium. So would that be the equivalent of like a buffet to you then? Because it's so full of all of these human thought forms.
That would be a snack smorgasbord.
Yes, that sounds about right. A smorgasbord of egregore. Are you in the immortal class, like with me, or are you a finite being of some kind?
Time for us does not work at the same scale. To a human perception, we would seem immortal, but on our side of the dimensional divide, we are quite mortal.
Have you always been? Are you like a celestial being, or are you in fact a thought form or egregore yourself, you think? Did I just blow your mind? Are you a cannibal? Are you eating your own with these thought forms?
No, of course not. How could you even suggest that?
Oh, I'm so sorry, my friend. I did not mean to offend. I'm just so curious about your kind and and how it all works. I'm very curious.
Hat Man start off as shadow people. Generally, as they grow older, they can be bestowed with more responsibility.
So what are your duties include then with this responsibility? I mean, obviously cleaning up, stray thought forms and egregores. Is there anything else in your purview?
Well, once we have siphoned those energies off, we redistribute them amongst our kind.
So, hunter-gatherer sort of party, then, you would say.
Yes, that would be accurate.
What do you do for fun?
Fun.
Yes,
That is not something I have thought of very much.
Oh, no. Like, do you
What?
just, like, go to the movies? You don't have to pay to get in. And people are thinking and thinking about what's on the screen all at the same time. So, might be a good place for concessions as well.
What I personally like to do is visit the memories of old libraries.
Oh.
On the human side, these would be places that the books are taken back over by Mother Nature. But we can still read the text on our side.
Is it kind of like, so in your dimension, it's like a dimension devoid of humans, but human thoughts have created that dimension?
Our dimension is based on memory.
Ah, okay, yeah. So, and then you can read the text from on your side, from the human side. That's interesting, and it's memory of the text because so many people have read the book, correct?
Yes, that would be correct.
That's interesting because we were talking about something in a similar vein when Courtney Block was on the podcast, and we were talking about how libraries are haunted, and it's a good place for it to be haunted because humans are indulging in the same stories in their own ways, kind of building things with their thoughts. So I love that, and I like this confirmation that we just got from you on that end. It's appreciated. Can't wait to tell Courtney. She's gonna just go crazy about that one.
We are glad that we can help in some way.
So you have libraries on that side in your dimension. Are there any other sort of like fun places to go to? Like, are there like, what do you do for like entertainment?
Well, there are also the memories of old dance clubs. Ones that have moved on or been closed down on your side.
Oh. So you have like probably a lot of like 80s music and weird dancing.
A lot of synth pop.
I imagine synth might be definitely welcome in your dimension, considering the whole traveling through radio waves, etc., and that sort of thing.
To us, it is like the music of the spheres.
I'm sorry, say that one more time for me?
It is like the music of the spheres of the old galaxy.
Music of the spheres. Wow. That sounds like a science fiction movie. That's what pray tell does that kind of sound like? Music of the spheres.
On your side, I think it would sound like perhaps the crew shadows.
Well, I think it's interesting that we both kind of rely on humans for our survival, and we find them to be quite annoying, but they can be quite entertaining as well. And I suppose their memories can be quite entertaining, as I've heard from you. Um, this is just a riveting conversation, and I'm learning so much about shadow people and hat men like yourself. Thank you, number 77. I appreciate you so much. I'm loving this conversation, but I think it is time to get into some paranormal gossip. For tonight's paranormal gossip, I have a little bit of a teaser. It's not so much gossip as kind of rumblings and rumors about a past guest that has actually been on the show. The Winged Weirdy of Nebraska apparently has been working on relentlessly a book of recipes to jazz up ramen noodles. And it's called 1001 Noodles for 1001 Nights. And at least that's the rumored title. It could change, who knows. But the only reason I know anything about it is because the Winged Weirdy actually reached out about the Asian Zing sauce that was recommended. And was asking if we had any other sauces that we tend to put in this household. But Allie is a creature of habit, and she only sticks to Asian Zing. So, be on the lookout for the Winged Weirdy book of recipes for ramen noodles. And unfortunately, he didn't want to take my suggestion, which was adding some O negative and an eyeball. But, you know, to each their own. But, yes, so keep a lookout for that book. If you have a bit of gossip, a misconnection, or personal sad to share with the show, please email thevampiretalkshow@gmail.com or slide into my DMs on Twitter, Facebook, Insta, or TikTok. And also, please consider joining the Patreon for the Vampire Talk Show. Usually, there's a tag at the end of the show, but apparently nobody listens to it. So, I've been told by my producer to say something about the Patreon. Please join the Patreon. It helps me actually do this show and helps feed my human so that I can feed on her. So, thank you so much. So, do you know what human food tastes like, number 77? I mean, I know because I can taste it through blood, but the memories of food, I'm sure, is a thing, correct?
It is a thing partaken of by some shadow people and Hat Men. Personally, I like the memories of macaroni and cheese myself.
Macaroni and cheese is fantastic. Now, but I must ask, because there are different kinds of macaroni and cheese. You have your Kraft macaroni and cheese, which with the cheapest ingredients you can find, which is, great. You also have like gourmet macaroni and cheese, where it's made with a bechamel instead of, a powder. And then you have like hybrid mac and cheeses that has like, it's almost like a casserole more than mac and cheese. People put lobster in mac and cheese now. It's insane. So what is your particular flavor of mac and cheese that you prefer?
The memory of it that I prefer the most was made with tomato sauce and cheddar cheese melted into the macaronis.
Ooh.
The memories stick to the roof of the mouth quite nicely.
I can only imagine. That sounds wonderful. That sounds like That's almost like a grilled cheese and tomato soup sort of mac and cheese, if you think about it. Oh, that sounds. Hey, Allie, yeah, maybe we should have that for dinner tonight. What do you think? Yes, you eat it, and then I feed on you. Fantastic. All right. Well, number 77, thank you so much for being on the show, darling. You've been such a wealth of information.
Thank you for having me, Valene.
That's all for the show tonight, kiddies. And remember, embrace the dark, the strange, and unusual. It just may embrace you back. Thanks to Douglas Fisher for being our guest today. You can follow him on Twitter at Metron2001 and Instagram at Scarborough_gatekeeper. Please consider becoming a Patreon member of the show. You can be a Baby Bat Sticker Club member where you get stickers every month, or you can be a Tarot Speakeasy member where you can get a tarot reading and tarot cards sent to you every month. Please subscribe on patreon.com/The Vampire Talk Show. This has been an Opus Nox Media production. To find out more, go to opusnoxmedia.com.